we are at the Lucky Lady Casino here. If you guys didn't happen to know, it's actually associated to the Hustler. I guess you could refer to it as the sister casino, as the Larry Flint conglomerate owns this property as well. The chips are a little rated X for mature, I guess you could say, but got some poker to talk about in this very fun action-packed game we've got to go over today. So before we get into anything, just do me a big favor if you guys would be so kind. If you guys can drop a like, it'd go a really long way in helping our channel continue to grow. In this very first hand, we're opening things off pretty short-handed. We're like 5 or 6-handed at this point. No straddles on. We're playing 5-5-10, and I decided to make it $30 to go here from early position. The cutoff, who's actually just to my left, is going to go ahead and 3-bet it up to 110. Action folds to me, and with a hand like ace and offsuit, probably plays better as just a fold or maybe even a 4-bet as a bluff sometimes, but we're getting loose, we're getting things going, so I decided to just make the call here. The flop comes out ace 8-8. Yeah, that's ace 8-8, not ace ace ace. I get those confused sometimes. My English is not that great. Either way, rainbow board. I'm suspecting my opponent should be betting here at some frequency. I check it over to him, but he actually ends up checking it back. Turn card that comes out as 7 of diamonds. Doesn't change a whole lot other than bringing a backdoor flush draw. When I check it over to my opponent, at this point, he decides to finally delay c-bet it to 105. I decide to make the call here, and we're going off to a river card that comes a jack of clubs. Not that, bad, as it just makes it less likely for our opponent to have a hand like ace jack. So the only things I'm worried about for the most part are going to be hands like ace king and ace queen. I check it over to him, and he decides to bet $355. I am thinking about it for a little while, but at the end of the day, my hand's just too good to ever fold as played, so I end up throwing in the chip for a call. Our opponent announces an ace. Well, an ace is most likely a chop until he shows me that it's not any ace. It's in fact ace king. Good hand to you, sir. Unfortunately, starting off today's episode with a loss, but let's see if we can move it up from here. Okay, maybe things didn't work out that first time around, but let's lock in here. We have like a 12-hour session ahead of us, so let's get things back on track. And this next hand is the perfect one to do just that. The $20 straddle is on, and we look down at the beautiful suited connector, one of my favorite hands in poker, 8-9 of hearts. I decided to raise it up to $60. The button decides to 3-bet to 175. The big blind makes the call when the action back to me. Seems like a fine hand to call and see a flop with multi-way, so I make the call. The flop comes out 10, 10, deuce, rainbow. With the action checking over to the initial raiser, he ends up checking it through. Not bad, especially when we pick up some equity as a turn card comes the jack of clubs. And when the big blind decides to lead out here for $110, looks like we're getting a pretty good prize to draw out. If I call, it makes my opponent behind me less likely to do so, and that'll allow me at least to have position. So after I call, that does in fact happen. We're going off to a river that is coming. A 3 of hearts, so it doesn't change a whole lot here, but with the action checked over to me, I'm now in between a pretty easy spot, whereas do I check back or bluff at it? And I think with the hand this bad, 9 high, we can never check back and see a hand that is worse than ours, almost never. So in this spot, we just got to go for it. It sucks because we're going to get called often, and maybe this is a spot that people say is over bluffed or whatever, but after losing that first hand, I just sure as hell don't want to lose this one, so I end up throwing out a big bet here on the river for $400. Our opponent thinks about it for a moment before deciding to make the fold. So nice for us there as we finally get on the winning side of things. Well, a lot is going on right now in my head as I'm handling a couple things from work. And that comes to the center of attention here as we make a big kerfuffle of things in this next hand where there's a $40 double straddle on. It's on me, and we look down at ace king offsuit. I decided to raise it up here to $80. Yes, you heard that correct, $80. It's an awful raise size. I get that, but in time, I thought the opponent had only put $20 out, and there was a single straddle. Either way, we made a big boo-boo, and now I have to live with this error. The other problem is we're playing the stand-up game, and there's only a couple people left in it, so we're kind of in a bad spot as I'm also left standing, and we're honestly misplaying the hand all around. Either way, the button, the double straddle, make the call. We're going 3 ways off to a flop that comes 8, 6, 5 with 2 spades and a diamond. With the action checked over to me, as I don't have a spade here, I think that there is literally no point in me trying to steal this pot. On the turn card comes a beautiful offsuit king of hearts. Oddly enough, he decides to throw a bet here for what looks like value for $225. Well, the good thing is my hand is really good value. and I can even beat hands that my opponent could be betting for value. I think raising here by, I'm not saying this is the best play in the world, but maybe a little goofy even. With a hand this strong, I think building up the pot here makes a lot of sense. Either way, the opponent behind me folds, and now the action's back to the double straddle, who thinks about it for a bit, and inevitably decides to go all in. Well, that's music to my ears. I don't think I'm dead here. I think I still do, in fact, have the best hand. We pretty quickly make the call, and we're going all in for a pretty massive pot. We decide to run out 2 boards. And the first board comes up the 7 of hearts, and you can see now our opponent exposes king, queen, and the second river comes out the 5 of spades. We show our hand, and our hand is, in fact, good. Massive pot being drug towards me. That feels super good. Really funly played hand, and let me know how you guys would have played it. Do you guys like the raise on the turn? Maybe not, maybe yes. It seemed like in this case it worked out for us, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Finally, the things are moving in our direction. Seems like the last couple sessions have been winning, and we are just on a sun run experience. Either way, in this next hand, the $20 straddles on, and it folds me in the small blind. I'm going to go ahead and raise it up a little bit bigger here to 80 bucks with Jack 10 offsuit, as I'm going to be out of position, specifically in the worst position in poker in the small blind. Either way, only the big blind calls, and we're going heads up to a flop that looks pretty good to me. Jack 6-4 with 2 spades. All right, this is a little interesting, but I decided to throw out a bet here for value of $100, and our opponent decides to make the call. We're going off to a turn card that comes the deuce of spades. Once again, shouldn't change a whole lot here. Of course, it does bring in the flush. I don't want to just completely deny that, but I think we can still continue to comfortably bet for value. I decided to bet $175. My opponent calls once again. We're going off to a river card that it's that good. It's so good I'm losing my thoughts and my grasp on the English language as it comes to Jack of Hearts. I throw out a pretty big bet for $500 for value. Once again, I do have a spade, which is a pretty nice card to have here. And more so, I think we can just target a ton of inferior holdings that my opponent can have. Either way, after a bit of thinking, my opponent decides to make the call. Nice. Another good pot coming my way. Pretty interesting hand there. Happy to share that one. Let's go to the next hand. A couple of hours go by before we play another hand. Yes, hours. We've been pretty card dead, or at least vlog dead. And when I say vlog dead, it's not that the vlog is dead. In reality, it's mostly just hands that just aren't interesting enough to put in the vlog. Either way, in this next hand, as the button makes $60 raise sizing here, and the action falls on me in the third blind, I look down at Jack 8 offsuit. Yeah, not that good of a hand here, but we're going to get in the mix here. I end up making the call. We're going off to a flop that comes out 9-7 deuce with 2 diamonds and a club. I check it over to my opponent. He bets $50. With the action back on me, the one thing I can say is, outside of the fact that I have a pretty not outstanding hand in the world right now, this board's going to be really good for my range just calling here from the blinds. So I decided to raise here for $225. Our opponent decides to make the call. We're going off to a turn card that comes at 3 of hearts. Once again, it doesn't change too much here. I make it $375 to go. Once again, my opponent doesn't waste too much time before deciding to make the call. And the river's not a good one as it comes the ace of diamonds. Not because it came an ace, but mostly because it came a diamond. I think a lot of the hands that my opponent's going to be calling, at least calling down with, contain diamonds here. I just wish I had a diamond in my hand. I'd probably be more likely or capable of making the bluff. But as it's played, I don't have a diamond. I think the jig is up. I put my hands in the air and I present myself to the authorities and let them know that I've pretty much committed a robbery, an attempted robbery actually. I didn't get away with anything. I check and give up. Our opponent checks it back. He shows Jack 9 offsuit here, so we'll live with it and we'll learn from it. Let's continue on. If you guys didn't know, we're doing our WSOP giveaway. The only way you guys can enter is very simple. You subscribe to this channel and all the videos or whatever. Subscribe to the Close to Broke podcast channel, which again, it's super simple. It's Close to Broke podcast on YouTube. Find it, just subscribe to it. Or even easier, there's a link in the bottom of the description right here. If you click in the description box, click the C2B podcast link and subscribe. And lastly, the most important part, submit a 60 to 90 second long video over to this email here, c2bpoker@gmail.com, letting me know why you think I should choose you to join me in the WSOP giveaway. I'm taking care of the flight, to stay, as well as your entry into a bracelet event here in the WSOP in the coming months. I hope to see you guys in Vegas, and if I don't, I hope to see you guys in somewhere near you. Picking up where we left off on the whole bluffing thing, an opponent from the cutoff makes it $60 to go, and we look down at King Jack offsuit from the button. On the button, some Broadway cards. All right, seems like a good idea to 3-bet. Why not throw in a little mixy, saucy type spicy situation? I am Indian, and we do like our spices. I decided to 3-bet it up here to $200. Action folds back to our opponent, who ends up making the call. And the flop is a really, really interesting one, as it comes King, Queen, 10, all spades. Yep. That's correct. We flop top pair and an open-ended straight flush draw, not to mention the royal flush straight draw variety. Either way, with the action checking over to me, I think my hand's super, super good here, and I'm not afraid of literally anything. So I decided to just check it back, play a little bit of pot control, and that does, in fact, work out in our favor as the turn card comes the 9 of clubs, once again improving our hand to a straight. With the action now, my opponent, he decides to bid out for $225. Now, I'm a little worried. Obviously I do have a jack, but I just don't think with a bare jack my opponent will be leading here. And I actually joke about it, and you can hear it in the audio where I say that my opponent probably has ace jack. Ace jack, huh?
Exactly.
It's sad when it's even that good I have the call. Maybe I also have ace jack.
Yeah, maybe.
We're going off to a river card that comes the 7 of spades. Once again, the action is on our opponent. He decides to check it over to me. I just don't think I'm ever getting called by any real river bet sizing, so I decided to do something goofy. I throw out a bet of $25. Again, my goal here is just to have my opponent react to this bet in a way that is just goofy, I suppose. He just throws in the call, and he says that he does have ace jack. Obviously, our hand is good here when he just calls. We end up shipping that pot. Nice to get back in the win column, baby. All right, quite some time has gone on from the last hand to this hand, so much so that we're on another game of stand-up. There's only 2 people left. I am one of those last 2 people. Not looking good. I look down at Queen 8 of diamonds here. I think we're 6 or 7-handed for the time being. I decide to raise it up here from the hijack with my Queen 8 of diamonds, and the cutoff decides to 3-bet to $200. The action folded back to me. I think this hand's meh, but I'm in a stand-up game, and you know what they say. Why not mitigate a $300 loss by instigating a $400 one, right? Does that make any sense? We're going off to a flop out of position that comes 9-6-5 rainbow, or actually 2 hearts, excuse me. With the action on me, I think this is a really good board here to just check raise on. Either way, it ends up checking through, and the turn card comes the 4 of spades. At this point, I think I should probably start bluffing. Queen high is just not that good to try to take the showdown. I throw out a bet of $250, and my opponent makes a call. And the river card is a miracle. I'm telling you, only the poker gods could have sent this one. It's a gorgeous queen of spades. Doesn't bring in any flushes here. With the action on me, if I was bluffing on the turn, planning to jam the river as a bluff, my opponent only has $800 left. It's probably a reasonable idea to go for it on the river when we make our top pair. I just throw it all in here. $800 to go. My opponent is definitely in a bind and thinking about it. He goes over it for about a minute before deciding to make the call. We show our hand, and we are in fact good. Our opponent would later say that he had a hand like ace-4 suited or something like that. So definitely got the maximum there, as we ended up getting all of his money. But as we said, as played, I'm happy that we didn't leave that value there on the river. And we got the maximum. Once again, we have a $40 straddle on. The game is getting massive and pretty much out of control by this point. Either way, Under the Gun decides to limp, and we look down at, once again, one of my favorite hands in poker, 8-9 suited. The spade variety this time around, I decided to isolate to $150. Only the big blind and the limper make the call. The flop comes out unbelievable. It's almost goofy. 9-8-3. But this is a really wet board this time around, as there's 2 diamonds out there, a straight draw out there. I mean, you name it. Yeah. I'm not really in the business of doing goofy stuff like this, but I decided to bet $450. That's like nearly the size of the pot here. Our opponent from the big blind does in fact make the call. Our opponent, that's the limper, sir, decides to fold, and we're going off to a turn card that is a beautiful brick. Whew, 3 of clubs. Once again, the action checks to me, and there's quite a bit of money in the middle, like $1,300, $1,400. And I think another good idea here is to just continue to blast. But there's just too much equity out there to not try to deny that. So I decided to bet $1,600. Once again, going over the size of the pot, putting maximum pressure on. We were doing it earlier for bluffs. It's probably a good idea to do here for value. But my opponent ends up reluctantly folding. He would later tell me he had a hand like queen 10. I think something like that. So a gutter ball. So got the obvious maximum there. We've got some more hands to go over. So let's go do that. Well, this next video is going to be catching up here as some action has gone down. But the action ends up checking, or excuse me, folding over to me here on the button. We look down at pocket 10s. I just had to raise it up to 60 bones. Our opponent from the small blind doesn't like 60 bones, would prefer 205 bones. With the action back over to me here in the button, I think just calling here against most people is probably reasonable, but against a specific opponent who's definitely got a major in clackology, he's definitely got the abilities to just go crazy and, you know, maybe overreact if I do something a little goofy. I do something that I hardly ever do, and I just had a 4-bet pocket 10s here. Again, it's nice to not always call with this. I don't know what the frequency mumbo jumbo is going to tell you to do, but I have a read. I think my hand's good. I think my opponent has about 2,000 in his stack. You might want to gamble. Seems all like a good idea to me. Either way, my opponent goes into the tank for quite some time, nearly like 2 minutes or something like that, before eventually asking me if I want action. I tell him that, look, we can do a couple things. If he wants, we can just get it all in and run 2 boards or something like that. Maybe we can just, you know, check it down or whatever. I don't really know what he wants here. But our opponent ends up deciding to make the fold. So, not going to win any more money there, but can't complain about $300 uncontested. Things are definitely winding down here. The session is closing out, but we're still looking to book a big profit, or at least a pretty decent win. You know what's a great idea to book a decent win, or at least would help you to do so? Yeah, pocket aces, probably a good idea. The under the gun player decides to limp, and once again with aces, probably a good idea to raise. I do just that. I make it $100 to go over the $20 limp. The action folds to the button, who decides to call. The big blind and the limper call. We're going 4 ways off to a flop. That's never good. That comes king, queen, queen with 2 diamonds. I don't have a diamond, and the action's checked over to me. I thought a $100 c-bet, going a quarter the size of the pot. We can definitely get called by inferior hands, lesser pairs, pairs of kings, straight draws, flush draws. Our opponent from the button makes a call. Everyone else folds, and we're going off to a turn card that's 3 of diamonds. Brings in that front door flush, and I think everything here is off of the table outside of just checking. So I check it over to my opponent. Luckily for us, our opponent ends up checking it back, and the river card is a chef's kiss. Magnifico. Ace of clubs. We improve now to top boat. A really, really great spot to be in. And with the action on me, I make it $1,000 to go. Once again, going over the size of the pot. My opponent laughs it off and ends up making the fold here. He would tell me he had pocket 10, so seems like we got the absolute minimum in that spot. Didn't 3-bet pre-flop. We weren't able to build a pot here, but either way, we're going to live with it. Let's go over the last hand of the session. In this last hand, looking to end things off with a bang, as the action opens up here with a limb from under the gun. We're playing 10-20 at this point. The low jack player makes it $150 to go as an isolation. With the action here on me on the button, we look down at pocket jacks. I isolate to $400, isolating the isolator. I guess it's just a 3-bet. Either way, the action folds back to him. He's hemming and hawing, and then ends up asking me if I'd like to just check it down if he calls. If this happens, for the most part, my opponent is probably got a really bad hand and just wants to gamble it up with me. And if that's the case, I'm not looking to eke out every single spot in my life. So I'm like, why not? End of the session. We're winding down. Let's just do it. Let me know how you guys feel about this. I think this is actually a pretty debated topic, whether just checking it down is cool. But I'm really genuinely interested to hear what you guys' take is on that. Either way, we do just that. We're going off to a board here that flops us a gutter ball, but that's queen high. Our opponent announces that he does in fact have a queen. We're not looking too good here. The turn card comes a queen once again, and the river card gives us a straight as it comes a 10, but it doesn't matter. My opponent has queen 10, so he has a boat. Yeah, just the nuts. Queen 10 offsuit. Nice hand, sir. Specifically the recycler. Shout out to you, brother. Shout out to Mr. Recycler. Congratulations. You crushed the game. And you crushed me. You just had to take all the money. Either way, jokes aside, it was a really, really fun special session. It was really nice to get a change of scenery. Again, the lucky lady, I'm going to be honest with you guys, has a really special place in my heart. It's the first place I ever held a meetup game. It was a really special time for me at that time, and and reflecting back and being in that same room is something really special to me that I just feel super lucky and grateful to be a part of. Either way, we've got some more to talk to you guys about here from the room and see how we feel in our post-game interview. Okay, so that is gonna bring our session to an end, almost like an 11-hour session or something like that. Again, this room is unbelievable. Hopefully we can start working with some fun people here, you know, maybe we can keep doing it here. Played for like, I think 11 hours, 12, 10 hours, I think. We started at like 2, it's a little past midnight now. We were into the game for, I believe, 2,900 and out for 62 exactly. I think about a 3,300 win. That's pretty solid. It's just really nice to be here, switching it up. Feels nice to be on the right side of things. So winning in the last couple sessions, winning today feels like we're on a nice little upswing. We'll definitely take that every day of the week. A couple things I guess I should mention. We're still doing our WSOP giveaway. That'll be live for at least another month or two or whatever. We dropped an unbelievable vlog with Rampage this past podcast with them on Tuesday. So if you guys haven't had a chance, check that out as well. Pleasure as always to have y'all. I've got to rack up. See you guys later. Stay happy, stay healthy, and more importantly, work at the table. Deuces.